am back, and this time we're taking a look at SpongeBob Season 2. Season 2 of SpongeBob was the first one to have digital coloring, meaning that nothing is cel animated anymore, which is a shame, pal. However, it still looks like the same good old show, and the art style remains the same. It's just not as clean looking as it did in Season 1. Well, maybe not clean, but aesthetically pleasing, if that makes any sense. Season 2 doesn't drop in quality, though, because it still has, if not even more, banger episodes than the last season. Some of the ultimate classics, as we are still in classic SpongeBob territory. One of the only issues I have this season is what exactly is this season, because it's kind of hard to figure that out sometimes. What I mean about that is that Season 2 episodes, some of which aired during the Season 3 era time slot, and because Season 2 and Season 3 basically are very similar in quality and writers and animation style, that sometimes Season 2 episodes are in Season 3, and even some Season 3 episodes are considered part of Season 2, based off the weird airing dates of some episodes. However, I'm going based off where I officially listed Season 2 episodes, and some of them just happen to be released a little later. So yeah, these are 39 episodes, I'm going to be ranking them all, and you know Season 2 has some great quality. There's at least 1 or 2 episodes that I don't think are good, as compared to Season 1, where now there's no bad episodes, but hey, only 2 episodes that were kind of weaker than the rest isn't too bad, so let's get into the ranking. And the worst episode of Season 2, and probably classic SpongeBob entirely, is I'm with Stupid. The reason this episode doesn't work is the fact that Patrick just acts like a giant asshole to SpongeBob after SpongeBob actually tries to help him out with his parents. Patrick's parents think he's an idiot, which, spoiler, he is. But instead of, after going with SpongeBob, what he's already doing, Patrick decides he's going to directly insult SpongeBob, and he never gets any recommendations for doing so, for insulting his best friend for basically no reason after he helped him out. It's kind of a terrible lesson for the kids, to be honest.
He's dressed! Only somebody with holes drilled in their head would wear that stuff!
I actually like this episode conceptually, but the way it's executed is just bad. So the episode just ends with the fact these guys are actually Patrick's parents, and the main joke is that's a repeated joke. Patrick says, "Who are you people?" We already seen that joke in a previous episode of this season, so it's not even a new joke. Yeah, these aren't Patrick's parents, so him acting like just asshole SpongeBob doesn't mean anything. I don't really get it. There's a lot of ways to change the episode in order to make it better, and unfortunately, the writers took none of them. One of the ways is that Patrick's parents could actually scold him for actually insulting SpongeBob, saying, "That's not how we raise you. We don't care if you're dumb. You should be nice to people." Something similar to that case. I don't know. Anything's better than whatever they gave us here. Number 38, Pressure. SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs mock Sandy because she's not a fish, I guess. That's most of the episode, and yeah, it's not really funny either. Not even the one meme this episode came from, I think, is even entertaining, where Patrick's like, "Sandy's a girl?" I was like, okay. I think the Lorax did that joke better.
You wouldn't hit a woman. That's a woman?
There should be no universe where the Lorax, the movie, does a joke better than SpongeBob, especially classic SpongeBob. And that's one of the main reasons why I don't like this episode. I don't really think it's funny, and it kind of has bad pacing for the most part, which is, I don't know, it doesn't really click with me. It's not good that the only thing I remember of the episode is the very ending, where they go above the surface and they're just live action, which is kind of interesting, but that, like I said, this lasts for 20 seconds. And the only thing I remember about this episode from when I was a kid, which isn't a very good sign for an episode. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of either of these 2 episodes, but the rest of these episodes are pretty good, so let's get into them. Number 37, Dumped. This is not really a comedic episode at all, which is why it's ranked so low. And I don't usually mind that shows, but SpongeBob usually focuses on comedy side. This one's episode's more about SpongeBob feeling bad that Gary ditches him for Patrick. And the joke is that the only reason he likes Patrick is because there's a cookie in his pocket. And that's mostly the whole episode. It's mostly just SpongeBob being sad about Gary ditching him. Overall, not that really entertaining episode, so I have nothing else to really say about it. It's not bad, just not really that interesting. So, yeah, next episode. Number 36, Grandma's Kisses. As a child, I thought that SpongeBob's grandma wasn't a sponge, but a cookie, because I am stupid. I mean, I guess she kind of looks like a cookie, and she gives cookies out, so I thought she was a cookie, even though she's supposed to be a sponge. I also thought that this coral that SpongeBob was eating, that he's not supposed to be tasty, looked delicious, because anything that was crunchy in a cartoon I thought was tasty looking. I am a weird person. This is actually an episode that I remember really liking as a kid, but now as an adult, I think it's just okay. That's not a bad deal. In fact, I live by the moral where you don't have to give up childish things just because you're a grown-up. You're never too old for your grandma's kisses. It's just the very ending is what brings it down a little bit. For basically no reason, Squidward is just out at SpongeBob's grandma's house and laughing in the window. Okay. Number 35, Jellyfish Hunter. The reason I'm showing Jellyfish Hunter there, because for some reason Amazon lists this episode as Jellyfish Hunters. Plural. It's singular. Alright, Amazon? Get it right. Essentially, this episode's where Mr. Krabs goes completely insane and inhumane, where he kidnaps 1 million jellyfish just to make jellyfish patties. Yeah, he just kind of irrepensibly bad, but really not that funny. However, there is really one funny joke that I love a lot in this episode.
Feels like somebody wants to sell me something!
I told you he was on to us.
I mean, I know Mr. Krabs as a character gets way worse as the seasons go on, much like a lot of characters do when it comes to irreprehensible actions, but this episode is pretty extreme, especially for Season 2 of SpongeBob. I mean, like, literally making SpongeBob capture every jellyfish just to extort them, which is, like, really fucking extreme, and it is kind of funny, but at the same time, it's like, this guy, we're supposed to kind of respect him in some episodes, but it's kind of hard to do that when, you know, he's doing something like this. Number 34, The Smoking Peanut. The Smoking Peanut is not a bad episode, just one that I don't find as funny as the other ones. It's about SpongeBob being scared that he thinks that he made a clam upset, and everyone's upset at the person who made the clam upset because, you know, it's annoying. There are some great jokes in this episode, but the concept isn't really that interesting to me, and even though there are some classic memes and jokes from this episode, I think overall it's an okay episode, and definitely there's a lot better in this season. Number 33, Sandy, SpongeBob, and the Worm. This is an episode I like conceptually more than it is in person. I think some of the jokes and the way they're paced out don't work as well as some of the other seasons. It actually feels kind of weird in a way. I don't want to describe it, but some of these jokes just don't feel as good as the other episodes in the series. But I think conceptually it's a really funny episode. Especially when they take Bikini Bottom and push it somewhere else. That's a classic. It's a good thing that SpongeBob doesn't have continuity because everyone but SpongeBob and Sandy die in this episode. And yeah, that's why I don't take certain things too seriously. It just depends on the certain tone. And while this episode is fun, I think some of the jokes could have been stronger. This would have been maybe a top tier episode rather than just, you know, a 7 out of 10 episode. Number 32, Gary Takes a Bath. Conceptually, this episode is kind of weird. Now, Gary's a snail, and snails in SpongeBob Universe are cats. However, how does water work in SpongeBob world if they're already underwater? Now, I know they explain that Goo Lagoon is actually not water, but denser water known as goo. So that kind of works, but here it's quite literally water, or whatever. It doesn't really matter at all. Also, I don't know why Gary would be smelly enough to need a bath, but okay. Everything else is pretty funny. It's a pretty short one, because I think it comes along with the Shanghai episode, which is a special. So yeah, it's short, it's sweet, but it's also nothing to write home about, other than the fact there's a prison rape joke in that. Number 31, Krusty Love. In this episode, Mr. Krabs wants to date Mrs. Puff, which is, you know, kind of weird concept. I guess Mr. Krabs doesn't have a wife. And yeah, Mrs. Puff's husband is dead, apparently, according to SpongeBob. This is another one of those fine episodes. We're almost getting out of the fine episodes, so don't worry too much about that. However, there's only one joke where Mr. Krabs loves Mrs. Puff and wants to buy her stuff, but he also doesn't want to spend money, and SpongeBob goes crazy. This is kind of funny. Also, Mrs. Krabs and Mrs. Puff's kind of weird combo, but later on in the series, it would actually bring this idea back. Yeah, maybe it should have stayed this way. Number 30, Graveyard Shift. This episode, Squidward just fucks with SpongeBob about a story when they're forced to work late at night with the Krusty Krab, and that's pretty much the whole episode. It's kind of funny, but, you know, it feels pretty short. But it's sweet, it's not bad, just nothing to write home about. The ending of this episode is kind of famous because it's really weird and out of nowhere, where a random old horror silent character known as Count Orlok, or as they call him, Nosferatu, shows up flickering the lights. For some reason, this character became a feature in the later episodes, kind of, for some reason. I don't really get it. Number 29, Shoes Untied. In this episode, SpongeBob forgets how to tie his shoes, because I guess he kept them tied the whole time. Yes, this episode is pretty alright. It's pretty okay. It's fun, it has some good jokes, but it's not top tier quality. I remember when I had to tie my shoes. It didn't really take me that long, because I got promised if I did it, I'd get a gift. That being a Webkin. You remember Webkins? And yeah, of course I did it. Though maybe this episode taught you how to tie your shoes. It feels very classic SpongeBob, but in a way that's just more like, okay, it's pretty simple and sweet rather than outright hilarious. And we're looking for outright hilarious for top tier SpongeBob, so yeah, it's fine. Number 28, The Secret Box. SpongeBob gets so obsessed with Patrick's quote-unquote secret box that he wants to know what's inside, hoping it's not an embarrassing photo of him at a Christmas party. As a kid, I thought it was a reference to the Christmas episode that you'll see much later in this list, but apparently it's not, because no one else thinks that way, but that's what I thought. This photo right here, but apparently it's not. For some reason, the thing I remember most of this episode from a kid is this weird ring they have where it sings best friends forever. I don't know why, that stuck with me for some reason as a child, and don't ask me why. There is honestly not a whole lot going on in this episode. SpongeBob wants to know what's in Patrick's secret box, he tries to steal it, and that's about it. He only reveals what it is at the ending. SpongeBob thinks it's a piece of string, when really it's a picture of him at the Christmas party. But yeah, it works for what it has. Number 27, Bossy Boots. Mr. Krabs decides that he wants his daughter Pearl to run the restaurant. I guess because nepotism is alive as well, as Squidward would say.
Living proof that nepotism is alive and well.
Also, I love the fact that SpongeBob has to serve salads or just tomato and lettuce. Also, I'm kind of confused because I thought the Krabby Patties were supposed to be vegetarian according to the writers way later down the line. Maybe they are, but this episode kind of contradicts that, don't you think? Not that it really matters. I mean, what even are Krabby Patties? And the real question is, what is a Krabby Patty secret formula? The answer is nothing. Okay, so this episode is pretty weird and interesting, but I kind of like the aesthetic change. It's not the most funny episode in the world, but I just like the way the Krusty Krab looks underneath Pearl's ownership, or management, I should say. Number 26, Wormy. Now, apparently some people don't like this episode, and for one really stupid reason. You see, Wormy turns to a butterfly, because Wormy turns out not to be a worm and a caterpillar, and they use live-action footage to see what they see, and apparently it scared some people. I mean, that's kind of the point. I don't really get it. I'm sorry, but this isn't really scary. Oh, it's up close of a butterfly, or maybe it's a fly, who knows. It's not scary. Sorry, you people are weird. While this isn't the most funny episode in the world, in fact it's only ranked 26 on this list, there are some great jokes in it, like SpongeBob's finger puppets represent all the people that Wormy's taken out apparently, which I love. And then Patrick and SpongeBob trying to save the city, which ends up them basically kind of destroying the city, including one of my favorite memes from SpongeBob.
We did it, Patrick! We saved the city!
Honestly, looking back at this episode, I'm surprised I actually ranked it so low. But then it turns out I saw the other episodes, like, oh yeah, those episodes are better. It just shows that we're getting to a really good point in Season 2. It's a really good season after all. Number 25, No Free Rides. In this episode, Mrs. Puff actually passes SpongeBob on his boating license. The reason why is that she doesn't want to deal with him anymore. But then she regrets this when she has a nightmare about him killing a bunch of people. I'm not joking, he literally kills people in her nightmare.
Happy birthday!
The Mrs. Puff boating school episodes are actually a lot more chaotic than I thought, because the first one you see is kind of bland, but this one, she goes flat out unhinged when she thinks about what SpongeBob could possibly do. And the fact that for some reason he and his parents decided to invade her privacy, and the fact there's a picture of her coming in her own door on her wall, cracks me up. I love this episode, it's great.
Mrs. Puff?
Number 24, Shanghai, or You Wish. You might remember this episode if you've seen classic YouTube poofs, because this was the episode that one YouTuber made a YouTube poop out of that has millions of views. I think everyone's seen if you lived back in the day, the early days of YouTube.
Holy sh**!
This is one of those episodes that I think has more interesting behind the scenes than anything else. It was originally aired as a special known as You Wish, and then re-released as Shanghai during our time. The DVD box that I watched this episode on actually had the special version where it has Apache the Pirate segment. So isn't that interesting? And showcases the alternate ending. There's a lot of great things about this episode. However, that YouTube poop I actually think is funnier than the actual episode itself. Yeah, while it's good, I think there are some lows in the greatness of the episode. Or just stuff for the SpongeBob and Patrick supposed to be scaring people. Just isn't as funny as the other parts of the episode. But other than that, it's a great episode, and I recommend going to watch it. Also, watch that YouTube poop you haven't. It's a classic. Number 23, I'm Your Biggest Fanatic. SpongeBob is getting tricked by his idol, Larry the Sea Cucumber. Is that his name? Larry? Living like Larry? And he's pretty much of an actual bigger loser than SpongeBob is, and he gets his comeuppance in the end. He's an asshole who gets a bunch of shit that happens to him, so it's kind of a great. But also like the fact that SpongeBob also gets sacrificed at the altar. I mean, what more could you want from an episode?
Look at me! I was just in this for the fashion!
Number 22, Pre-Hibernation Week.
Lights and extreme, and you wanna make it!
Before Sandy has to hibernate, she wants to do a bunch of extreme stuff with SpongeBob, making sure all her hours worth left are great. But then this almost drives SpongeBob up a wall and to death, so he decides to hide. And this episode's funny at first, but I feel like the last third, I guess, is where it gets the funniest, where everyone's trying to look for SpongeBob. Includes some of my favorite jokes in the series.
Hey, SpongeBob!
Well, at least I still have my personality.
And honestly, if I list any other jokes that I like from this episode, I can be here all day, because this episode has a lot of great jokes. And why is this episode lower than some of the other ones? Well, there's that many good episodes in this season. There's so many good episodes going around, and this one is easily a really good one. And yeah, let's go on to the next one. Number 21, Imitation Crabs. I love this episode is named after that terrible food that doesn't even taste like crab. Like, screw that food. Give me actual crab. Don't give me imitation. That stuff sucks. Plankton pretends to be Mr. Krabs in order to trick SpongeBob into giving him the Krabby Patty formula. Obviously, this fails. But what it really has is the jokes that came along the way. Now, while this episode is funny, looking back at both these episodes, I realized that Pre-Hibernation Week is better. So if I forgot, I'm definitely putting this below that episode. Sorry, Imitation Crabs, but you're an imitation. Number 20, Bubble Buddy. Bubble Buddy was one of my favorite episodes as a kid, but as an adult, I think it's good. But I like 19 episodes more than Bubble Buddy. I think the problem I have is Bubble Buddy sentient or is SpongeBob an asshole? I guess Bubble Buddy is sentient at the end, but he fucks with Squidward for basically no reason. Like, why would he order everything on the menu if he's lactose intolerant? Fuck Bubble Buddy. And yeah, that's the only reason why I have it ranked lower than some of the other episodes. That doesn't seem like a lot, but hey, it's worth noting. I would explain this episode, but I think everyone knows this episode, so that's about it. Bubble Buddy is greater than that. Number 19, Big Pink Loser. Patrick wants to be an award winner like SpongeBob, so he follows the ways of SpongeBob a little bit too much. This is another one of those classic Season 2 episodes, where there's a lot of global lines like, this is Patrick and not the Krusty Krab. I mean, what else is there to say? Everyone knows this episode. It's funny, and I like the ending. It's just I like episodes that are more than this. I think I said that a million times in this video already, but it's true. I don't think I have a lot to say about this episode, honestly. It's pretty solid, however, I think there are better, funnier episodes in this list. I honestly don't know why when I first ranked this. Sometimes I was like, when I get flashback, like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, Pre-Hibernation Week, just pretend it's a lot higher than it actually is, because it's a lot better than the other episodes below. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. Number 18, Squid's Day Off. When Squidward is given the day off, he decides to ditch work and let SpongeBob do everything. But this makes him paranoid and makes him run back to work constantly over and over again. And that's just a funny concept in general. This is a simple episode, but it works for me because Squidward's own torture comes from his own brain. SpongeBob does literally nothing to him other than say, "Are you finished with those errands?" And that's pretty much all there is to it. Squidward fucks with himself this episode, and that's great. I like when writers can actually do that. I also realized that a frame there just showcased the background through Squidward's neck. Just go back and watch that, because that fucked with me just now. Anyway, not only is Squidward getting fucked with, I'm getting fucked with.
Gosh, Squidward sure is a hard worker. He makes me proud to wear these hats.
Number 17, Sailor Mouth. Yeah, this is the episode where SpongeBob curses. What more do you want to know about it? Just the idea there's an episode where all SpongeBob characters are basically swearing is just funny as it is. Also, apparently there's an uncensored version of this, but barely any audio has been found about it, or in the word fuckface and below me. Yeah, apparently it's been leaked, but the guys are like, we're being secret about the footage! Or some weird shit. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Not that it really matters, but fuck this, fuck that. I'm saying fuck, shit, bitch, cunt, because this is the episode where you get to curse. Even Mr. Krabs' mom curses. That's a quality episode. I mean, I don't know what to say about it. SpongeBob characters curse, and apparently they cursed in real life. That's hilarious. Number 16, Artist Unknown.
About this one, I call it bold and brash.
More like belongs in the trash.
Oh, do you know that Bold and Brash actually returns later in the same episode? I bet you didn't know that. Squidward teaches an art school exam, and he teaches SpongeBob, because SpongeBob's the one that showed up. SpongeBob succeeds, and then he fails, and Squidward tries to make him make high-quality art like he did the one time, but now he fails after we're reading the book. Yeah, this episode is pretty funny. It's a lot of jokes per minute. However, not every joke is as great as Bold and Brash. More like, belongs in the trash! Number 15, Procrastination. Did I say that wrong? Yeah, I said procrastination wrong. This is the most relatable episode of SpongeBob to me. It represents procrastination and writer's block at the very same time. It does it in a very comedic way. Love it. This episode does what animated cartoons are supposed to do at their finest. It starts off with a basic premise and it gets more and more chaotic as it goes on and on and on, and I love it. I mean, the essay's writing doesn't make any sense either. What not to do at a stoplight? Go. What do you mean, Miss Puff? Why would you need to write an essay about that? You're a boating school instructor. No wonder you fail SpongeBob all the time. You suck. Number 14, squirrel jokes. SpongeBob tries to be a stand-up comedian, but he's only really good at making squirrel jokes, which are basically racist jokes. So yeah, this episode deals with racism in Bikini Bottom. And yeah, this episode works well, even though it has a similar premise to I'm Was Stupid, where a character insults another character they're supposed to be friends with, because you can kind of see why, and they get reprimanded for doing so. It's wrong that SpongeBob is doing this, and it's actually represents something in real life that happens sometimes. People make cheap jokes at someone just because they can get a good, quick laugh at it, but doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. And I like the fact that it deals with that and also tells funny jokes along with it at the same time. So this is exactly how you're supposed to do an episode like this. Alright, I'm with Stupid. Number 13, Welcome to the Chum Bucket. This episode is ranked so high purely based off the song it adds, even though Mr. Krabs' voice actor not being his voice actor during the song is pretty beat. Also, the fact that my fiance cries at this is hilarious. Yeah, she cries at the Kitchen is Not the Same Without You song. This episode, Mr. Krabs sells SpongeBob to Plankton, and he's supposed to run at the Krusty Krab. Of course, Plankton fails to get SpongeBob to do anything he wants. I would explain why I like this episode a lot, but
I don't really feel like it. I don't feel like it. Why don't you ask me later, Krabby? I mean, I'm working all day for free. My treat.
That's what.
Number 12, the Fry Cook Games. I mean, what more do you want than buff SpongeBob and buff Patrick? Apparently they've been working out. In this episode, SpongeBob and Patrick basically compete against each other in a fry cook style Olympic game tournament, and they have a lot of good puns and jokes surrounding that, including morbid jokes, and I love quick morbid jokes in cartoons if you didn't know anything about me. I like the part where the oil goes on all the fish and they basically die and the guy sells them. Like, oh my goodness, cannibalism in SpongeBob? And you gotta love the ice cream part. I mean, look at that. That's a good ice cream.
No! My name's not Red!
Number 11, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 3. Despite not being the biggest fan of the first two Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episodes in Season 1, episode 3 of it, I guess, is actually really good. SpongeBob and Patrick accidentally unfreeze one of their arch nemesis, Man Ray, and they decide that they're going to rehabilitate him rather than just send him out in the world, which is actually kind of a great idea for this type of thing. They fuck up, but they also try to rehabilitate somebody, which actually worked. I like how you think Man Ray is just going to take over the city, and then he's like, I can't do it anymore, I'm giving up my villainy. They fail miserably, but at the same time, they actually work. It's kind of hilarious. And it just works incredibly well. I mean, who doesn't like Man Ray?
If that's the case, this must be your wallet.
That makes sense to me.
Then take it.
It's not my wallet.
Number 10, Life of Crime. This episode is great because SpongeBob and Patrick steal a balloon on Free Balloon Day, by the way, and so they think they're criminals and they have to run away from the law. This is one of those episodes that just chock full of jokes, like a joke per minute. It builds up on previous things. It's just fun to see these characters think they're criminals, but failing terribly at so much so that they immediately give up and go to the police after like one night being criminals. And the chocolate bar scene is just iconic. Number 9, Squid on Strike. The Krusty Krab is unfair, and Squidward and SpongeBob go on strike and basically get fired from the Krusty Krab in order to get back at Mr. Krabs for all his unfair labor duties, basically making Mr. Krabs as a criminal. I like when SpongeBob deals with more adult topics, but in a way that for kids to understand, because I didn't know what striking was as a kid, but this did teach me what it was, and it is kind of funny, especially since Mr. Krabs really deserves to have his employees struck against him since he is an asshole, as previously established in this season. The writing in this episode is just top-notch. Everything about it is hilarious and funny. I mean, I think the idea of both SpongeBob and Squidward striking against the Krusty Krab, in general, is just a funny idea, and they take full advantage of that. The idea that Squidward gets less into the idea of striking as time goes on, but SpongeBob gets more into the idea is just actually a really great concept. And in the end, even though they forced to work with the Krusty Krab are doing a bunch of damages, even though they already damaged the Krusty Krab in the last season, playing them up, remember that? This is still a very good episode where Squidward wins for a short period of time, but thanks to SpongeBob, is forced to work with the Krusty Krab forever. Number 8, Patty Hype. This is one of those episodes that I feel like is in everybody's head. You ever have SpongeBob episodes that go in your head? Well, SpongeBob selling multicolored patties is definitely one of them. This episode basically showcases that SpongeBob is actually way better than Mr. Krabs at his own expertise, and he actually makes a lot of money. But Mr. Krabs tries the same idea, he loses all his money. Maybe SpongeBob failed, but maybe just karma coming back at Mr. Krabs for being a jackass. I also find the interesting that SpongeBob's reward in this episode, actually owning the Krusty Krab, is actually better than what he gets at the end of the SpongeBob movie, which is supposed to be the series finale. Here he gets to own the Krusty Krab entirely, and in the SpongeBob movie, he just becomes the manager. But other than that, it is pretty satisfying to see him own the restaurant. I think he'd be better at running it than Mr. Krabs, don't you think? The pretty patties are just so appetizing to look at that they even made them in real life. I'm not even joking, they actually made them in real life. They're pretty tasty too. But you gotta love pretty patties and Patty Hype.
Hey, is that one purple? Purple is my favorite color.
Number 7, Survival of the Idiots. Otherwise known as the Dirty Dan episode. Maybe that's a reference to Dan Snyder, because he is a real Dirty Dan, but who the hell knows. This episode's a classic. SpongeBob and Patrick get trapped inside Sandy's tree dome during the winter and they can't escape. So they decide to play games and steal Sandy's fur. It's kind of fucked up, but they get their comeuppance in the very end. Also, this monster Sandy form is just hilarious in general. This like giant thing that beats the shit out of them all the time is just great. And the fact that she's always trying to chase after this guy named Dirty Dan and Pinhead Larry. But what more do you want? This episode's a classic for a reason. Number 6, Christmas Who, or the SpongeBob Christmas Special. This is the first ever SpongeBob special, so the first one is featured live-action segments starring Patchy the Pirate, who I did not know was played by Tom Kenny, the voice actor of SpongeBob. Isn't that swell? I guess it's kind of obvious now, but I was a stupid kid. Believe it or not, as a kid, this was my favorite episode, and I can kind of see why. It definitely gets you in the Christmas spirit, which is definitely one of my favorite holidays. It's very good special, and I think everyone likes it. I like the song, and I like Squidward a lot in this episode. Squidward is one of my favorite characters in the show, so of course I like it when he acts like an asshole, and he has to fix his own problems, you know? He can't just be a jackass all the time, alright? Quite literally, Squidward's a jackass. The episode said so itself.
This Christmas feels like the very first Christmas. The first Christmas is this Christmas, cause it feels...
Other than that, I do not know why Santa Claus appears and just has a seizure underwater, but I guess he can't breathe. Maybe that's why. The Santa is just fucking bizarre, but other than that, it's a great episode. I mean, making the Santa bizarre is also pretty hilarious. Number 5, Dying for Pie.
Oh, these aren't homemade. They were made in a factory. A bomb factory. They're bombs.
After Squidward gives SpongeBob a pie that's actually a bomb, you know, they're made in a bomb factory. They're bombs. I don't know why they made them like shit like pies, but, you know, it's just kind of a surreal SpongeBob humor that you gotta love. This is one of those episodes that has a lot of great jokes. I mean, a lot. Just conceptually, just a hilarious episode. Like, this is the ultimate Squidward acting like an asshole. He's so lazy to get SpongeBob a gift that he gives him a bomb, basically. So this is all on him. I don't really like the open surgery heart problem, but everything else is hilarious, including one of my favorite quotes from the whole show, to be honest.
The three of us. You, me, and this brick wall you built between us.
Number 4, Squidsville, or just Squidville. Squidward moves away from his life on Conch Street, yes, what the street is named after, in case you're wondering, and moves to Squidville, where everyone is just like him. But he learns that that's kind of boring, and he likes excitement in his life. This is probably one of the best Squidward episodes just for that, in general. Not only are there tons of great jokes in this episode, but the fact that Squidward goes from his normal self to basically an even more unhinged version of Patrick and SpongeBob at the very end to the citizens of this town is just great. This is a great idea for an episode. I mean, what more could you want from an episode that has canned bread? Oh my god, this place has everything. Interpretive Dance Academy. Of course they would have Interpretive Dance Academy, and Squidward, of course, will be on that dance floor. Number 3, Something Smells. Easily one of the best episodes of the entire series. I mean, what more do you want from an episode that contains the story of the ugly barnacle? In case you're wondering, once upon a time there was an ugly barnacle. He was so ugly that everyone died. The end. This episode is a complete classic. From I'm ugly and I'm proud, I'm ugly and I'm proud, to even this guy's face. I mean, look at the face he makes here. This is just a classic face in SpongeBob history. This episode is just is top notch. I mean, literally, I just love everything about it. I can like coolly quote this thing forever and I still be here. We got 2 more episodes to go, and number 2 I think is gonna be a little controversial, but I will explain why it's number 2 and not number 1. Number 2, Band Geeks. Yeah, I'm actually surprised myself this is not number 1. This is easily considered the best SpongeBob episode by a lot of people, including SpongeBob's own voice actor. This episode has one of the best plots, some of the best jokes in the series, and has one of the best endings in the entire series for an episode. It is that good. Squidward is supposed to make a band to prove that his old school rival, Squilliam Fancy Son, is I guess he sucks, and he was going to play at the Bubble Ball. Bubble Ball? There are so many great jokes here. I love the flag trolls who die and Squidward falls to the ground. I mean, there's nothing more classic than that. I also love this face that Squidward makes after getting blown away by the loudness of the music. His theory was wrong. And for some reason, this jackass Bluefish just wants to fuck with Mr. Krabs. I don't know why, but he seems to really hate Mr. Krabs for basically no reason. It's kind of funny. Also, did I mention the first appearance of Squilliam Fancy Son? And yeah, I think he's a one-off character, but he would eventually go on to reappear on multiple episodes because this episode is such a classic. There's even a controversy about them not playing it at one Super Bowl. I wouldn't really know because I don't watch football because I hate football. And people are like, why do you hate football? Well, I don't like football, okay? I'm an American and I don't like football, alright? Or American football, not soccer. I mean, I don't really care for soccer either. I'm not a sports person, alright? And I'm procrastinating. Now, why isn't this episode not number 1 when everyone else ranks number 1? Well, I was going to rank it number 1, but then I found that I actually like this one episode a bit more, alright? Just a bit, alright? This episode is still great, but I like one episode a little bit more, and that episode is number 1, Frankendoodle. An artist drops his pencil in the water, which actually becomes a magical pencil when the SpongeBob and Patrick use it. And yeah, this guy's kind of an idiot. Why are you in the middle of the ocean, Pacific Ocean to be exact, with a pencil, one pencil? The narrator makes fun for that. This is one of the most creative episodes, and that's kind of the reason why I like it so much. They do a lot with his pencil, and a lot of great jokes come about their drawings and certain things. Like, Patrick gets his mustache, which is just funny in general, and the mustache just flies away, and then it goes onto Squidward's head, and Squidward acts like, oh my god, I got hair! Yeah, they fuck with Squidward a lot in this episode. Not really a lot, but just a little bits, and that kind of works better. Sometimes it's better just to have it in small doses, even if he doesn't really do anything that deserves it. But it's still funny. His hair flying away and his wanting to get $1. That's something they would do with Mr. Krabs. Apparently they're doing it with Squidward now. The episode really starts to get going when SpongeBob draws a picture of himself known as Doodle Bob, and Doodle Bob kind of goes insane, and he just speaks a bunch of gibberish. This character is kind of the best. I mean, look at this thing. This episode's so good, they made a game based off it. Well, kind of. It's a spin-off to another game. Ever played Art of Life? It's pretty good. So, well, Band Geeks will probably always be the most popular episode. This is my personal favorite. I just love the creativity, and I love the jokes around it. Just the idea of a giant magic pencil is just something I really like. It's top-notch, and so is the rest of Season 2 of SpongeBob. Hope you enjoyed this watch through, and let me you share yourself what you think is the best episode of Season 2 of SpongeBob, and if you'd like me to see me do more. So far, the first episode is doing alright right now, so I will probably do Season 3 if I get around to it. Like I said, I have no idea how far I'm going to go for this, but it'll be nice to see if I can get through all 14 seasons. And that's all there is to say about that, so thank you for watching. Subscribe if you like what I do, give it a like, hit that bell if you want. I don't really care about the bell thing, but people say that all the time. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching, and have a spongy day.